All right, just to close, chapter on last week's game. Obviously, it was an exciting win. Really want to thank, the Panther Nation for that crowd that was there Saturday. It was electric. The Panther Pitt did a great job. And, we always say it, we need everybody. And that crowd was good. They caused communication errors. They were exciting. Everybody on our sideline was excited. It was what Heinz Field should look like on game day for Pitt Panther football games. So, overall, happy with the game. Obviously, you watch the tape on Sunday and you go through each phase, offensively, defensively, and special teams, and there's so many things that we can clean up. As I said after the game, offensively, it was like our first game, really. So, a lot of little things to clean up, as well as some other stuff to show as well. So, there's plays we left out there. I think we played a really good first half, and then second half it was really a different ball game. Don't know if we lightened up, but there was a lot of plays we left on the field there that we could have made, which was probably the disappointing thing when you go back and watch the tape the next day after you're all excited and you watch the tape and you're kind of pounding the table. So, but as I told our kids last night, that game's done with. We're moving on to Oklahoma State, a top 20 team. Going into the season, had a tough game last week where, they lose, in an officiating error at the end of the game. So really, they won the game, and they're still a top 20 team, in my opinion. I mean, they're a good football team, well coached, very athletic, can run. Probably the best team we played to this point in our season for sure. They're athletic across the board. Obviously, it's another one of those non-conference games, so it's the Big 12 versus the ACC this week, which I think our guys liked that challenge last week, and we saw how we stack up against the Big 10, and we get a chance to get on the road, go out to Oklahoma State and get it done. So with that, open it up for questions.
Hey, if every game isn't, if last week was a little bit different, is that victory a little bit different, and do you have to take different steps to make sure guys don't get, if there isn't a letdown, if there isn't any sort of...
I don't, do we have to take any extra steps? No, but, like I just said, that chapter's closed. We closed it last night, so really there should be no talk about it. It's over with. We're going to move on to the next one. That's just what we do. It's a 24-hour rule where, you can have fun Saturday night and wake up in the morning, still smile, and then when they came in here at 4 o'clock, they came to work, and we met at 7:10, and really met, as a team at 7:10. But they all got their butts ripped in every meeting that we in, right, Tyreek? Did you get yelled at? Yeah. So, they were smiling until about 4 o'clock, which is about when the game ended, 4:30, and then it was game on again, and start the next week.
Dantes didn't play in the second half, but he's listed on the depth chart. What's his status for this week?
He's right now, up in the air. We're going to, continue to wait and see where we are this week. He's a tough kid, so I expect to see him out there.
Was playing Aaron Matthews in response to not having Ford, or did you plan on getting him in anyway?
No, we had planned on getting Aaron in the game. Matter of fact, I texted Coach Wade prior to the game and said, because the week before I thought he was going to get in, we just didn't get to it like we wanted to, and I texted Wayne and said, hey, he's getting in this weekend, so keep your eyes open, don't miss him. So no, we had planned on getting him in the game. We had planned on getting him in the week before, and sometimes we don't get everybody in the game you want. The heat of the game gets going, and you just don't get guys in that you want to get in. But he was a guy that we said that he's getting in. He's playing this week, and we made it happen. He did a nice job.
What about the emotion of getting up for a game? You guys are going in a frenzy for that game, and now you're not talking about Penn State anymore. But you still can you do that 2 weeks in a row?
They only give us 12 opportunities, so if we can't do it, I think that'd be tough in basketball. Talk about basketball, 30 games or whatever. We only get 12 of them, and we don't get to play Tuesday night and then have to get back up for a Friday night game. You only get, we got 10 guaranteed opportunities left, and that's our job as coaches to make sure that we are up for the game. But we're going to treat it just like we did last week. I told them last night this is a big game because it's our next game. And that's kind of how we do it every week. Whether we shut you guys off or not, nothing changes. It's a big game. We're going to be excited to play this one.
What played into the decision not to show all your cards with the offense when you did in week 1 to week 2? I mean, was it part that you didn't have George? Because it seemed like he was a big part of that.
Was it just more what the defense gave you?
No, but all those guys played that same position, whether it's George or Jamar. Jamar could have done all the same things. Matter of fact, we felt bad afterwards, because we probably should have handed off to Jamar a couple times too, because he can move as well. I mean, he's kind of special with the ball in his hands. So, we'll probably get that done and just kind of spread it around a little bit more. Even with Trey Tipton and Ra, and all those guys can do it. They know what to do. It's not just the Quadra Henderson show. So, it was just a matter of what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. And like I said, Coach Canada's got a great plan. He's got a feel for what he wants to do, what he can do, to use our personnel. And again, all those plays we ran against Villanova, we still have them in. We ran a couple of them, Saturday as well. So we're still going to go back to that. It's just looking at personnel matchups and where we confuse a team.
Where did you see the areas you needed to improve on? I mean, what do you kind of attribute to some of the times you didn't get out of the huddle as fast, those sort of things?
Our communication was much better, getting into the huddle, Again, we only had one delay a game where I tried to call penalty, but I thought they were going to just, they were going to get it done like they did the whole game. And, we won the time possession by 11 minutes. So we'd like to get out of the huddle late. So, we want to eat up that clock, but, we were just a tick late there. They snapped it right at the whistle there. So, there's a ton of improvements to make. I mean, if you watch that second half and you look at how many times we're one block away from taking it to the house again, we can look at the final score, but it was a good game plan and there was a lot of great execution going on.
Now, where was the passing game when you looked at the tape? Was there opportunities that you mentioned things that you left on the field, or was that just a matter of?
It was some things we left on the field in the run game, but when you rush for 350, who wants to throw it? You don't have to. I mean, so a lot of our passing game we haven't really seen yet, I guess. So we left that on the field. But when I say left on the field, there's plays we could have made and could have been cleaner.
What you saw though from your quarterback on the few throws that he did make, are you're feeling good going in?
I feel great. I mean, he was on fire, really. Nathan had a super game, played good enough to help us win the football game. He was on fire. Really, I look back and see one, even the interception was not his fault, and that ball hit Dantes in the hands and maybe the helmet. He had one overthrow, on kind of a break contained pass. Nathan played a great game.
You mentioned that drop off in the second half. What were the biggest differences you noticed between the team, how they played in the first half and how they came out in the second?
Well, it was just sloppier. Now were we sloppier or were the officials making us look sloppier? I don't know, but it was just a tale of two halves. It just wasn't as clean as the first half. Maybe they felt really good. I don't know.
What defensive adjustments are you going to have to make this week to deal with OSU's spread off?
Good question. OSU. There's a bunch of different coverage adjustments we're going to have to make. I mean, they are fast. I mean, they're wide outs. Obviously Mason Rudolph, runs the show, but they're two wide outs. McCleskey and James Washington, number 28, he's a blazer. So there's some different things we've got to do coverage-wise just to eliminate the big plays. They'd like to chuck it deep, so we'll be ready for that. They get into some max splits where they're really. I mean, you're going to see there's a receiver. He'll line up on the divider out there between the hash and the numbers. I mean, he's out there. So they'll split you out. So there's some coverage adjustments that we'll have to make, and at the same time try to stop the run, which they like to run the ball. So it'll be a challenge. They score a lot of points. They like to score points.
I'm sure. Anything like the Baylor Cotton Bowl team 2 years ago?
They have some similarities. I mean, the Big 12 is like that. I mean, the Big 12 likes to throw the ball around, sling it, finesse, but physical football team. So they're very similar to that. I mean, I think they all are in that league. You kind of do like everybody else is doing in that league. So the Big 12 is, they got a lot of great football players and a lot of great teams. So Oklahoma State's just another one of those.
I'm not sure if you've ever sort of had a loss like they had last week, but how do you think sort of having a tough loss like that, where on the last play, potential official error, how do you think that affects the mindset for that team going?
I'm not worried about their mindset. I'm worried about our mindset. But I would guess that they're going to be pretty upset and angry. So I would imagine we're walking into an angry stadium on Saturday. That's the way I'm going to approach it. And I'm sure Coach Gundy will have them ready to go like he always does. I mean, he's a heck of a football coach, and he's an emotional guy, and he'll have those guys cranked up, ready to go.
Pat, when you're trying to look at the tape and show them off Penn State what they did well or what they didn't do well, I mean, how does that? Do you spend more time on one side than the other than you normally would coming off the win because of the way that the halves played out? I mean, do you sort of?
I watch all the tape with the offense and the defense, so it's no different. I watch it with both. So I start off meet with the offense, and then we watch it with the defense, go through our grades, goals, and see exactly what's going on both sides of the ball.
Do you linger maybe more on the stuff you guys didn't do well rather than the stuff you did do well coming off?
Oh yeah, we always linger. Coaches are miserable people, and we linger on all the negatives, unfortunately, don't we, Tyreek? I mean, we try to give them a little pat on the butt, but that's what we do. It doesn't matter what you win by or how many games you win in a row. I mean, there's always things that your opponent's going to see on tape, whether you got beat with it or not. They're watching it on tape and they're going, "Ooh, we got that, and we got to fix that. Why did you show them that? You're showing us a weakness one way or another." And people are going to try to, people are looking for our weaknesses, on special teams, on offense and defense. And if you show them something, whether it was a big play or not, a good play or bad play, people are going, "Oh, okay, that's how you do that." We don't want to show any weakness. So that's all we do is focus on the negative, unfortunately.
Your defense is right at 60% stopping the opponents on third down. 2 games. Had some big plays, a couple sacks, but just overall, are you satisfied with where you're at third down wise?
Just like we said, I mean, never satisfied. We can get a lot better. We've made some plays, we missed some plays, and give the offense credit. They made some plays here and there, from Villanova to last week. So, we want to be better and never satisfied.
How are the guys that come in on that package, Janice, Lance Briggs specifically, how they done?
Q had a big sack last week, so he's done well. Q can cover. He's smart. He can blitz. He's big and physical and strong. I mean, he's done a nice job. Dennis Briggs has done a nice job. I mean, he started that star position a year ago on that package. So, those guys have done a nice job.
Yeah, you were awfully happy with your offensive line through most of the game, rushing yards, but you weren't happy with some of the unsportsmanlike conduct. How do you go about approaching that and taking care of that?
Well, we just got to be smart. I mean, we talked about composure going into the game. You go back and look at the penalties, look at them, and kind of go, "Wow, really?" I've seen a lot worse not get called. So, but we'll be like little angels out there this week. We'll try to do everything perfect, I guess. You got to be careful if you show emotion.
What kind of feedback and reception, Pat, have you gotten in the, 36 hours or so after that Pitt State went for people outside the program, fans, anybody who's kind of approaching you in public?
I'm sorry.
What's the feedback and the reception been like that you've gotten in sort of the immediate aftermath of that Penn State game?
I haven't had a whole lot of time to have much contact with the outside world. We live in our own little world. I tried to return all my text messages that I got. I returned them real quick. Thanks, appreciate it, hail to Pitt, and moved on. Wasn't looking for a response or, I know everybody's happy out there. That's great. They'll pat you on the back and then, punch you in the mouth the next week. So we just got to move on, and, they don't care what what we did for them last week. It only matters what we do this week. So you're only as good as that last Saturday afternoon. Okay. Does that answer that?
Yeah.
You look confused. Just want to make sure.
Of those interactions you had, any of them stand out? Anybody you were even surprised to hear from?
No. I mean, you had Saragusa. You had some great, some great players in our locker room after the game, which was great to see. I mean, Tony Saragusa was in there, hadn't been back for a while, and having Walt Harrison there was just to bring back the old former players of the 76 team. I mean, Tony Dorsett's running around. I mean, happy as could be in the locker room. Just there was a lot of fun in the locker room, and it was great to get our former players back with us.
Your depth on defense has been tested with injuries. You played so far without guys like Van, Folston. Those guys have stepped up.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Rory Blair stepped up. Rory had a very solid game. Folston, did some really good things out there. Bam had some really nice plays, not only on defense but on special teams. So I think he'll continue to get better. You saw him out there at that field position, like we had talked during doubles. So there you go. But no, I was happy with what they did.
Is Bam more of a star than Money right now?
He's both. Salim Brightwell's playing well too. So Salim, besides a late hit on the kickoff team, kickoff return team, he's a physical guy that likes to mix it up, as you could see, and he is a good football player. So Salim's in the mix. So he can do. Bam can do a little bit of both. He'll play both still. I would not say he's all star.
Pat, do you pay attention to what else goes on in your league, or do you wait until you get to the conference play to kind of pay attention to it?
It depends on what time the game is, but I try to watch as many of those games as I can. I watched the Virginia game or Virginia Tech game that night and try to keep an eye on what's going on. Why is there something to tell me about? You shoot me some emails. EJ tries to keep me in touch with things that I care about.
The league's got 3 teams in the top 10. I mean, Wake's.
I didn't know that.
There's some decent non-conference, out of conference wins you guys have one. Some other schools have one. I just didn't know.
I knew North Carolina went and knocked another Big Ten team off, and it was great to get whenever you get a call from the commissioner saying, "Hey, coach, good job," that's a good deal. So I was pleased to get a nice call from and I hope we have some more phone calls here in the future as well. Oh yeah, it's nice, huh? I can't tell you. Personally.
Have you ever been carried and you crowd surfed through the locker room after a win like that, and where would
No,
that rank
I think I was too heavy. I thought they most dropped me.
Where would that rank in your career as far as post-game celebrations?
That's obviously as a head football coach. That's it's first place for sure. First place for sure. Okay, Oklahoma State questions.
Do you expect DeMar to play this season?
There's a chance. Nothing. There's still some more guys that could play. We're playing to win, and whenever they're ready, they're ready.
Anything else for coaching before we get to our player representatives?
Yeah, last year with the Duke Miami finish, the ACC made some changes about implementing a centralized replay system. I guess is it your understanding that in a conference game, something like what happened to Oklahoma State shouldn't happen to you guys as a result of that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, again, I know with the, playing a, I don't know if that was a Big Ten or MAC officiating crew out there, but yeah, I would think that's gonna, if anybody's gonna get suspended, it'll be the guy back in the home office. I would think that would hopefully alleviate some of those issues. It should be alleviated on the field. That's tough.
Pitt's sack totals have increased pretty dramatically since you got here from where they were the 2 years before your arrival. When you first got here, what did you kind of notice with your team's pass rush? What do you think has been able to sort of lead to that pretty drastic increase?
I think number one is our coaches coaching it up. And Tyreek can tell you about sacks. You got one yet? It's coming. But I think it's keeping it simple enough that these guys can go play. And obviously schemes are important, but if you don't have guys that are playing fast and playing confident, then schemes don't mean anything. So they got to know what to do and be able to execute it quickly. I think we do things that are different than a lot of people schematically, but we also got guys that are buying into what we're coaching and understand what's going on. They still got a ways to go. We still have a lot of knowledge to get, but I'd say that's one of the key factors.
Were you aware of that rule at the end of the Oklahoma State game?
The good rule or the bad rule?
Do you understand this application, how it's supposed to be applied?
Yeah. That's an air ball play that you're just throwing the ball up and the game should have been over. But
I guess he probably knew about it too. He just didn't have a chance to say anything to the refs.
Shouldn't have to say anything to the refs. Shouldn't have to say anything to them.